Welcome, deep divers. You've turned into Congress in context, and today we're really getting into the weeds of what's been happening on Capitol Hill.
That's right. We've been digging through the Congressional Record, looking at the latest bills, the debates, trying to make sense of it all.
Exactly. Our mission really is to break down these, often complex legislative moves and political shifts.
And show you how they might actually affect your life. We want to cut through the noise, give you the highlights, the context.
Without you needing a law degree to follow along, think of this as your inside look at the Senate's recent activity.
So let's dive in. #tag legislative highlights.
Okay, first up, there is this massive piece of legislation. One senator even called it the One Big Beautiful Bill, which gives you a sense of its scale. Huge, right? 940 pages.
Yeah, massive. And interestingly, it took quite a while to even get to the Senate floor after the House passed it, over 2 months.
So what's actually in this thing? What are the key takeaways for, everyday folks?
Well, it covers a lot of ground. One really big change, tangentially, is about charitable giving.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new tax deduction, up to $2,000 for donations. And here's the key part. It's for all taxpayers, not just, the top 9% who typically itemize.
Wow, okay. So anyone could potentially claim that. That could really shake things up for nonprofits.
It really could. Democratize giving, maybe? Then, for seniors, there's a provision saying no tax on Social Security benefits. That's direct financial relief.
What else?
For families, there are tax credits for businesses that set up on-site childcare, try to tackle that accessibility issue, plus an extension of paid family medical leave.
Childcare credits. Okay. That's interesting.
And remember all the talk about the IRS wanting reports for Venmo or PayPal over $600?
Oh, yeah. That caused a stir.
Well, this bill eliminates that requirement. That's going to be a relief for a lot of people, I think. Small businesses, side hustles, just regular families.
Definitely less paperwork. Anyway, did it touch on bigger picture stuff too?
Right.
Like infrastructure, security?
It did, yeah. There's funding in there now, law, to upgrade Coast Guard radar and camera systems.
Yeah.
Specifically aimed at securing the southern border.
Okay.
And on a more maybe local level, but still interesting, funding was secured to finish those Tulsa-Stonehenge bridge supports on I-44 in Oklahoma.
Tulsa Stonehenge, I remember seeing pictures of those, just the support standing there for ages.
Exactly. So that project gets finished under this bill. Shows the range from national security down to specific local projects.
So that's the big one. But Congress wasn't only working on that monster bill, right? Were there other more focused laws passed recently?
Absolutely. Two stand out. First, the Take I Down Act
Yeah.
is now federal law. This tackles revenge porn.
Right.
And critically, it includes images made with AI, which is obviously a growing concern, aimed at protecting young people.
That seems really important with new tech. And the second one,
The HLT Fentanyl Act. This permanently puts fentanyl-related substances into Schedule 1.
Schedule 1, that's the most serious category, right? High potential for abuse, no medical use.
Exactly. It allows for much tougher penalties. It's seen as, a significant step in trying to deal with the opioid crisis. #tag key votes and contentious nominations.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. The Senate doesn't just pass laws, it confirms presidential appointments. And that often leads to some pretty heated debates. What caught your eye recently?
Well, one nomination that really stirred things up was Cheryl Mason for VA Inspector General.
The VAIG, that's a watchdog role,
The
right?
crucial one. And one senator argued really strongly against her, raised concerns about partisanship, her time as an advisor to a previous secretary, Doug Collins.
What were the specific concerns?
The senator brought up claims that thousands of VA employees, many of them veterans, were, quote, illegally fired during that time, and that tens of thousands of jobs were left vacant.
Wow.
Yeah, the argument was basically that the IG needs to be absolutely nonpartisan to ensure justice for veterans. The debate got intense.
So what happened? Did she get confirmed easily?
Far from it. Just the vote to end the debate, the cloture vote, was only 53-44. That really shows you how divided the Senate was on her nomination.
53-44, just to stop talking
Oh, yeah.
about it. Yeah, that's tight. Any others that stood out?
Brian Nesvik, for Director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, he was presented as, very qualified. Director of Wyoming Game and Fish, military background, Bronze Star. Generally seen as a strong pick from that side.
Okay.
But then there was Casey Mulligan, nominated for a role at the Small Business Administration, Chief Counsel for Advocacy. That one was also contentious.
Oh, so.
His committee vote was 10-9, completely along party lines. 0 Democrats supported him. Concerns were raised about his economic philosophy, this ultra-conservative school of thought, and whether he'd really stand up for small businesses against things like, say, tariffs.
Interesting. It really highlights the scrutiny these nominees face. We hear a lot about obstruction and delay with nominations, claims of partisan gridlock. Is there data on that? Is it worse now?
It's actually quite striking when you look at the numbers. One senator pointed this out. Under President Trump's second term, get this, 0 nominees have been confirmed by voice vote.
0 by voice vote. That's just where everyone agrees. No formal vote needed.
Exactly. It's usually used for non-controversial picks, and historically it was super common, like 98% under Bush Sr. and Clinton, around 90% for Bush Jr. and Obama. Even Trump's first term saw 65% confirmed by voice vote. Biden's at 57% currently.
But 0 for Trump's second-term appointments so far. That's unprecedented, as they say.
Totally unprecedented in modern times. It really speaks volumes about the level of, well, gridlock and the difficulty in getting personnel confirmed quickly.
Yeah, paints a clear picture.
Yeah.
So beyond the nominations, how are these big bills, like the appropriations bills that fund the government, actually moving? Any procedural logjams there?
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Right now, there are efforts to bundle several of those big spending bills, the ones for commerce, justice, science, agriculture, military construction, and veterans affairs, trying to move them together.
Makes sense. Efficiency, maybe.
Maybe. But then you get these individual issues popping up, like there's a senator from Maryland who wants an amendment about the new FBI headquarters.
What about it?
Wants to guarantee it meets top level, level 5, security standards. Fair enough, perhaps. But this senator is apparently holding up progress on other things by demanding a vote on this specific amendment.
Ah, so using leverage.
Exactly. Another senator called it holding hostage other important bills. It just shows how these procedural rules and individual demands can really snarl the process.
One amendment blocking multiple funding bills.
Yep.
That's the Senate for you, I guess. And doesn't this tie into things like the blue slip, too? These unwritten rules?
It absolutely does. The blue slip is that tradition where a home state senator can basically veto a judicial nominee from their state just by objecting.
It's still a thing.
Still a very powerful thing. There was talk, apparently one leader was testing the waters about getting rid of it, but another senator publicly vowed to honor it for the next, 17 months, no matter what. So yeah, these traditions, written or unwritten, have huge influence. #tag political dynamics.
Okay, let's shift to the political debates swirling around these actions. Economic policy, especially tariffs, always seems to divide folks. What were the arguments we heard recently?
Very different takes. One senator was really critical of recent tariff deals, pointing to one with South Korea involving 15% tariffs, called it all talk, no substance, all hat, no cattle.
Strong words.
Yeah.
What was the core criticism?
That these tariffs just end up raising costs for average Americans. You know, the cost gets passed down when you buy imported goods.
Right. And the other side, or a different perspective.
Well, another senator raised concerns about a different potential tariff situation, threats of maybe 50% tariffs against Brazil over a court decision there.
50%. Wow.
Yeah. This senator argued that could seriously damage a relationship that's nearly 200 years old, and that the U.S. should respect Brazil's judicial system as a sovereign nation. So different angles, one focused on consumer cost, the other on diplomatic and economic fallout.
Yeah, clearly tariffs aren't simple. What about debates over social programs? Social Security, Medicaid, always hot topics. What were the clashing visions there?
Very sharp contrasts. On one side, you had a senator accusing the administration and its allies of wanting to, quote, privatize Social Security to benefit the wealthy elite, called Social Security probably the most popular government program ever.
Framing it as an attack on a beloved program.
Exactly. Then, on the other side, defending that one big, beautiful bill, a different senator brought up an audit from Louisiana.
An audit? What did it find?
It claimed that back in 2019, about 1,600 people in Louisiana making over $100,000 a year were on Medicaid, costing, they said, over $85 million.
Okay, so what was the argument based on that?
The argument was that social programs should be bridges, not parking lots, temporary help, not permanent dependence. This was used to defend a new work requirement for some Medicaid recipients.
A work requirement. What are the details?
80 hours a month for healthy adults aged 19 to 64 who don't have young children. This senator also pushed back on a CBO report suggesting millions would lose Medicaid, calling that report all salt and no tequila, basically, missing context about why people might become ineligible. Maybe they got a job or other insurance.
Bridges, not parking lots. That's a memorable line, captures that philosophical divide.
Uh,
What about healthcare more broadly and clean energy? We hear lots of rhetoric there.
Definitely. One senator delivered a blistering critique, saying Republicans took a battering ram to the American healthcare system,
A battering ram, how so?
alleging huge cuts, hundreds of billions from Medicaid, Medicare, the Affordable Care Act, also claiming slashes to NIH research funding for things like Alzheimer's and cancer, and cuts to the CDC.
And the predicted result.
Skyrocketing insurance costs, hospital closures, and absolute evisceration of the system was the phrase used. Very strong language.
Wow. Did that same critique extend to energy policy?
It did. The same senator slammed cuts to wind and solar incentives, framed it as a big oil-funded vendetta that would destroy, they claimed, 840,000 American clean energy jobs by 2030.
840,000 jobs. That's a huge number.
A huge number. And they linked it to global competition, saying these cuts were like a gift to China in the biotech and clean energy sectors, pointing out China's dominance in solar panel production and their rapid build-out of wind and solar.
Interesting connection to China there. They also mention AI's energy use and climate.
Yeah, touched on the growing energy demands of AI and framed climate denial as having real costs, citing a successful lawsuit by Massachusetts against the EPA years ago over regulating greenhouse gases.
Okay, now, a really difficult and sensitive topic, the Gaza and Israel conflict. Obviously intense feelings and diverse views in Congress. We just want to present what was actually said on the Senate floor impartially. What perspectives did we hear?
Right. It's crucial to be clear we're just reporting the views expressed. One perspective argued forcefully that Hamas diverts humanitarian aid for its war effort. This senator criticized what they called cheerleaders, apologists, and dupes in the West, including in the U.S. Senate, for, quote, turning a blind eye to Hamas's crimes and blaming Israel instead. The point was made that Israel was expected to feed the population of Gaza, who this senator described as the very people who attacked, raped, and murdered innocent Israeli men, women, and children on October 7th, noting American victims were among them.
A very direct and stark perspective. What was the contrasting view expressed?
A very different tone and focus. Another senator, identifying as a pastor, stated plainly that starvation is being weaponized in Gaza, calling famine a fact, regardless of denials.
Calling it a fact.
Yes, and invoked Martin Luther King Jr. We are tied in a single garment of destiny, and the late John Lewis's call to speak up when things are not right, not fair, not just.
So a moral call to action.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
A call to get food, medicine, and dignity to Gazans, to bring hostages home, and to work towards peace and security for everyone in the region, Israelis and Palestinians. Two very different framings of the same crisis.
Absolutely. Despite all these deep divisions, though, there are still moments where Congress comes together, right? Tributes, recognition.
Yeah, and it's good to remember those. There was a really heartfelt tribute to the Baseball Hall of Famer Ryne Sandberg after he passed away.
Ah, the Cubs legend.
Exactly. The senator remembered him not just as a player, but as someone who exemplified American values, like taking care of fellow citizens.
Nice. Any other examples?
An incredible story shared by an Alaska senator about a constituent named Angela. She survived a brutal attack that left her in a wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
But she didn't stop there. She actually advocated for and helped pass legislation changing how the legal system deals with attackers found incompetent to stand trial. Then she went on to excel in wheelchair rugby, other adaptive sports,
Amazing resilience.
and eventually retired as an honorary chief petty officer from the Coast Guard. And her daughter is now serving in the Navy. Just an inspiring story of turning trauma into advocacy and service.
That really shows how one person's experience can lead to real change. Any other recognitions?
Yes, respects were paid to fallen law enforcement officers, under Sheriff Brendan Gayday from Kansas and Deputy Elijah Meng from Kansas City, Kansas, recognizing their sacrifice.
Important moments of remembrance.
And tributes to Senate interns too. Maria, Ava Moore, Jordan Phillips, acknowledging their hard work behind the scenes. Plus, a senator highlighted Fort Laramie in Wyoming, its history, the ongoing preservation. A reminder of shared heritage. #hashtag context and analysis.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about bills, votes, debates. How do we understand the process itself better, the legislative mechanics?
Well, the appropriations process we touched on is key. That one big, beautiful bill shows how lots of different policies get bundled into these must-pass spending bills. And the effort to link different bills, commerce, justice, ag, milk and VA, is all part of the complex negotiation to keep the government funded.
And the votes, like that tight cloture vote for Cheryl Mason?
Right. That 53-44 vote, just to end debate, shows how, Even procedural steps on nominations can be battlegrounds. It highlights the partisan friction, and it connects back to that startling statistic about zero voice votes for recent nominees.
Yeah, that really stuck with me. It suggests a breakdown in even basic cooperation, doesn't it?
It certainly points that way. It slows everything down, makes it harder for any administration to get their team in place, and then you have things like the blue slip tradition for judicial
The
nominees.
home state senator veto.
Exactly. Even though it's not a formal rule, the fact that senators still vow to uphold it shows how powerful these unwritten norms are in shaping what actually happens or doesn't happen in the Senate.
So these procedures and traditions have real consequences. Let's connect the dots more directly. How do these policy decisions, tariffs, healthcare cuts, social program changes actually impact you, the listener?
Let's take tariffs again. It's not just an economic theory. When tariffs go up on imported goods, you often pay more at the checkout counter. It hits your household budget directly.
Okay, what about healthcare?
Those proposed cuts we discussed to Medicaid, Medicare, ACA, NIH, CDC, if enacted, they could mean higher insurance premiums for you, potentially less access to doctors or hospitals, especially in rural areas, and slower progress on medical research for diseases that affect millions.
So very direct health and financial impacts. And energy policy, you mentioned jobs.
Right. The debate over clean energy incentives isn't just about climate. It's about potentially hundreds of thousands of American jobs, making solar panels, installing wind turbines. Policy choices here shape the job market and the economy you live in.
And the social program debates, like the Medicaid work requirement.
That directly affects individuals who rely on those programs. It's a fundamental debate about the balance between providing a safety net and encouraging work, with real consequences for people's access to healthcare and financial stability.
Okay, broadening the view again, national security. How are congressional actions shaping that landscape?
We're seeing efforts to adapt. The National Defense Authorization Act, for example, has provisions trying to modernize the intelligence community. Things like more oversight for commercial messaging apps used by personnel, new authorities for the NSA.
Keeping up with technology and threats.
Trying to, yeah. And dealing with global competition, especially with China. Concerns about their influence in biotech, their presence near Alaska, their efforts to control strategic ports worldwide. These are driving legislative action aimed at bolstering U.S. competitiveness and security.
What about things like human rights or cybersecurity?
Congress is definitely engaged there. Resolutions asking about human rights in places like Eritrea or Rwanda show that's part of the foreign policy calculation, sometimes tied to U.S. aid. There's worked on a strategy to counter transnational repression governments targeting critics abroad. And cybersecurity is huge, including proposals for better security testing of voting systems to protect elections. Hashtag future implications.
So looking down the road, what should we be watching for? What's next for some of these key issues?
Well, the appropriations process is never really over. Getting the rest of those funding bills passed will remain a major focus and likely involve more negotiation and potential standoffs.
And nominations. Still likely to be tough.
Given the trends we discussed, yeah, expect continued scrutiny and delays for presidential nominees, especially any seen as controversial. It's become the norm, unfortunately.
Any specific policy areas to keep an eye on?
There's ongoing work on reforming cell phone use in prisons, trying to stop inmates from running criminal enterprises from behind bars. That'll likely continue. Also, that idea for loans to child care providers near military bases, addressing quality of life for military families.
Seems like a targeted solution.
And improvements at the VA are always on the agenda. Developing and rolling out a new patient scheduling system is a big ongoing project aimed at improving veteran healthcare access.
Okay. What about the bigger picture? What larger trends are shaping Congress's work?
I think the nature of the threats Congress is grappling with is clearly evolving.
Huh.
It's not just traditional military concerns anymore. Think unmanned drones near borders, the massive energy needs of AI, even space debris. These tech and environmental challenges are now national security issues.
That's a really important point. The definition of security is broadening.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And also, the lines between domestic and foreign policy are blurring. Debates on tariffs, clean energy, even healthcare funding, they're all increasingly tied up with global competition, especially with China. What we do at home impacts our standing abroad, and vice versa.
And within government itself.
There seems to be a continued push for oversight and accountability. You see it in the focus on inspector general reviews like at the VA or in the intelligence community, and efforts to strengthen whistleblower protections, trying to keep the vast machinery of government in check. And human rights remain a persistent theme in foreign policy discussions. Hashtag tag closing segment, citizen engagement.
Wow. We've covered a huge amount of ground today in this deep dive, from specific clauses in massive bills to global security trends. It really underscores how much Congress impacts, well, everything.
It really does. And hopefully, understanding a bit more about how it all works empowers you, the listener. Remember, this information isn't secret.
Right. You can find the text of bills, see vote records, track legislation yourself on congress.gov. It's all publicly available.
And don't underestimate the power of reaching out. Contact your senators, your representative. Let them know what you think about these issues. Understanding the process, the committee hearings, the floor debates, the amendments, it demystifies things.
It shows you where the decisions are really made and where your voice might actually make a difference.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive for Congress and context, we want to leave you with a question to think about. Considering the sheer range of challenges Congress is facing, from international conflicts to local infrastructure needs, climate change to economic shifts, and hearing the passionate, often opposing arguments, if you could pick just one single issue, what do you believe demands the most urgent, bipartisan attention in the months ahead, and why? Something to chew on. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.